It's almost like the universe is telling me I don't belong or that this isn't my thing. Because if I'm not in the way of myself, that means something else is blocking me. Well, yeah, consistency. So we get told a lot, the only person who is getting in the way of your success is you, right? So you humble yourself in everything that you may consider embarrassing or beneath you, or you're too afraid or too embarrassed to do whatever else, and you just go ahead and do it. And I learned this term recently, 200 view jail, where only a handful of people see you at best and less than a handful like your stuff. So now you feel like, well, I'm not standing in the way of myself. I'm doing everything I possibly can to get to where I want to be, but there's still these roadblocks. It's almost like the universe is telling me I don't belong or that this isn't my thing. Because if I'm not in the way of myself, that means something else is blocking me. Well, yeah, consistency. When they talk about how you're in the way of yourself, they're getting ready, they're preparing you for, they're helping you break down the barrier that you have put on yourself, that wall in between what could be and what is. Now, once that wall is broken down, what is and what could be, it still has a bit of a gap in between. And you know what that gap is? That is the walk. That is a steady pace to get to where you want to be. Right now, I am not where I want to be, not where I foresee myself in the future. But just because I'm not there yet, just because I'm not here, doesn't mean I'm not willing to walk the steady pace to get there. This pace, it's bumpy, okay? There's terrain. There's little animals and little things trying to get in the way, jumping in front of you, all the stuff. All so you can fall back and turn around and go wherever other direction. But this right here, it's not moving. Every no, because you get a lot of no's, those are the roadblocks, for at least the main roadblocks for some actors. All those no's, those are roadblocks in itself. All those no's making your way to a yes, okay, that's one. Then you have if you're going the social media route or you're going in the direction of networking. Sorry, that took me a hot minute to remember that word. But if you're going in the direction of networking and social media, trying to build your influence and your presence, the roadblocks are making yourself not only relevant enough, because, it's hard to get relevant enough, but that doesn't mean it's impossible, and sometimes it happens pretty quick. Making relevant content is one thing, but making sure it reaches people, making sure that people actually want to tune in every time you post, it's a completely other different thing, okay? Let's use social media, for example. Recently, I have been posting a lot on TikTok, YouTube Shorts, not as much as I'd like, but with the materials that I have, which is literally just my phone and my charger, as much as I can. Now, I post one thing on one platform every day. I make sure that, at least I try. I don't know, we'll see. I try. And I try to use the correct sounds, the correct hashtags, the things that are trending the most. But for some reason, with the exception of some videos that get more traction than others, I am not getting the followers pouring in out of every window at every second. And the thing about that is, blowing up is a concept that we see so often, and so we try to mimic it. And when it doesn't happen like this, because we see it happening like this for others, we think that we don't deserve. When the fact is, blowing up is like getting a straight shot, And even then, it's not really getting there. It's just getting to the mimicked version of what's really over here. Because when you blow up, that's one video. Okay, fine, you're trending. That's 2, 3, 4, 5 videos. Within a month's time, once that trend is over, the next thing is coming into motion. Moving at a steady pace, making sure that you are getting everything. How do I say this in the right way? I'll say it like this. Followers and community. We want this. We want a community because a community knows you. They don't know you they don't follow you for what they see, or how you're best at doing this one trend, or how you look best in this sort of whatever. The community is the people that founded you, and they make sure that you hold steady on that rise. Because followers, I follow them, then they go through their following, they're like, oh, I don't really know this person like that, unfollow, But at least for me, I want to make sure that I have people following me that want to follow me, that want to have that community with me, that I want to give them a reason to follow me. And it really just depends on you giving them a reason. Now this is, this is the social media realm, because the social media thing is everywhere and can really benefit you in almost any line of work that you do, or any ambition that you have. But let's say let's say we're not talking about social media, okay? This is an acting channel, so we'll talk strictly on acting this time, and then afterward we'll talk on the wide spectrum of everything in general. Acting is hard, and if I have learned anything, and I'm sure if you pay attention you'll learn it too, there are actors who are subpar at best. No hate to them, but they subpar at best, and they know how to make sure that they not only get into the films that they want to get into, but they're also having a ring of people around them supporting them, moving them and sifting them through all the nonsense, all the hardships, all the hatred that may come with all the bad acting that they have, whatever. But half the time, and I learned this on Instagram too, there's a girl on Instagram, I put her act. She talks about how talent gets you through the door, but the branding, sort of how you promote yourself, is what keeps you in the room. Okay, so she uses big examples and small examples, people you may have never heard of and people who there's no doubt you've heard of them. But what all of them have in common is the way that they are making themselves known. And the way she breaks it down, she shows the pattern of it's like, how you envision your A-listers and how you envision your B, C, D, whatever. Once you notice what she's talking about, you can sift out who would and wouldn't be an A-lister and why they are more popular and more talked about than so on and so forth. It's actually amazing. But acting, as I've said before, boundaries of the infamous no. Learning how to get over getting told no is not only a skill for the profession, but it's a skill for life, because people will reject you. Okay? People will tell you no when you're doing work stuff. They'll tell you no when you're doing personal stuff. You'll get told no by family, friends, coworkers, others, It's just a word. You gotta learn how to get over that. But aside from those, what other things set back actors? Well, I'll tell you one thing. Something that has set me back for a long time is, the whole, the only person who can set you back is yourself. Yeah, it was me. And I'm gonna give you a quick story. So it is a well-known fact that acting classes costs money, okay? And I'll be honest, because we are a safe space, okay? And it's honestly nothing to be ashamed of. I couldn't really afford acting classes in the beginning, and even now, okay? Because it's pretty hefty in price, especially if you want good quality and you don't want the stuff that I could look that up on YouTube. You want one that is actually teaching you, one that you you need to learn how to get comfortable in almost any situation, but one that is accessible, and one that can also be affordable, but not so affordable that it's like, okay, and there are some acting classes that just teach you baseline, whatever. And there's also different sub-genres and stuff, like theater acting, and then strictly on camera acting, and then the ones that teach method acting, Meisner, that kind of thing. And so in the beginning of my acting journey, I was freshman in high school, and I really wanted to get into everything. So I found a acting class on on TikTok, on Google, and it was called the Starfish class. It was amazing. I still get emails to this day letting me know when they have classes and everything. And that was the one that I knew I wanted to do. I looked at other ones. They didn't feel very it didn't seem like they were teaching what I needed to be taught. And I'll be honest, freshman year and pretty much the first 2 years of my wanting to be an actress, I was convinced I need private classes. I can't let anybody see me in this vulnerable state of not knowing how to act in the very beginning, But I learned I had to get over that, so it was a group class. Only issue was that it was a class for adults, So that was disappointing, but I didn't give up. I knew that was the class for me, so you know what I did? I sent him an email, and I let him know in this very lengthy email. Honestly, one of the best writing I've ever done. I don't even think my college essay can touch this. I explained to him not only my inspirations, but my setbacks, why I'm so fearful to be in a group class, which is exactly why I need to be in one, and why I think that his class would be the class for me. And then I ended it. I didn't tell him in the beginning. I said at the end, So I am this age. I'm aware that you don't take anyone under 18, but what was it? I was like 15. Between 14 and 15, I think, yeah. And I was like, I'm aware you don't take anybody at this age. However, I cannot stress enough how deeply it would mean to me to not only be a part of your class, but to learn specifically from you. And I know for a fact that I can't go without having experience from your class. So basically, in the most polite way possible, I told him, this is the class I'm going to be in. And it worked. He responded, he was like, usually I don't take anybody younger, blah, 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 but, you know, we're going to see, da, 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 da. And I remember he set up a scheduled time for us to interview or like audition, and it was just me reading a script, so he can see where I would need help with. And it was during my class. So I went to class, and then I asked to use the bathroom. I said I had a headache, you know, I think I just need to walk it off, you know, feeling pretty dizzy. And I hid in the bushes, and I auditioned for the acting class. And you know what? It was the most exhilarating moment, because I just felt so proud of my determination. And that's one thing that I want you guys to know. That whole, the only person setting back is yourself, so true. And it gets pretty difficult when you're under the age of 18. You know, you have your family, especially if your family isn't that supportive, or just, you know, doesn't see the long-termness of this career. It really does fall on you. And it really takes you taking a leap, being creative, finding ways to get into where you can fit in. And so, yeah. And that wasn't the last time I did that, by the way. Asked to leave class so I can do an interview. But yeah, I did the interview in the bushes. He liked me, so I came down there. And remember, the first class was me just sitting in and seeing how everything works. I introduced myself, then I sat back down. Second class, it was more of like drills, or whatever. That it was during that class that they learned I can't really project very well, and I get nervous, and those nerves kind of held me back. And then at the end of that class, and you know, followed up by an email, I was like, no, we have to do a skit, or not a skit, but you know, like a scene. And it would be scenes from movies. I didn't know the movie I got mine from, but scenes from movies, and we would do it with a scene partner. So I was a daughter. My scene partner was an older man. He became like my acting class father. He was around, I'll say older than late 40s. Yeah, I'll be kind. Yeah. Or it's not like it's mean or anything. He was seasoned, and he was a cool guy. He had a boat. That's one thing I remember about him. But yeah, he played my father, and I was nervous because this scene was a bit emotional, you know, and I practiced. I didn't learn this yet, but I practiced acting as though I was in the scene and not practicing so I can memorize the script, because you're supposed to practice so you can memorize the words so you can act authentically when the time comes for you to act. But I didn't know that yet. So I'm acting it out and everything. The day comes, I get dropped off, and I'm still very intimidated. There was no one under, I'd say 25 in that class, no one under 23. And so being 14, 15, and being around all these older adults who ranged from early 20s to late 50s and beyond, it was scary. And so he calls us up, and I sit down. I memorized the words. So I had the words in my head, but the way I practiced it was kind of blocking me. And so halfway through I was forgetting my lines. And I had the lines script in my hands, and so I'm looking down, I'm reading, and he's talking to me. And I told myself, you know, just right now he's doing his monologue, so look him in the face, you know what you're supposed to say next. And as I'm looking him in the face, his role was to act very dismissive of my feelings. Very much like, well, I know what's best, and I know that you definitely do not. And not only that, but why should I listen to you anyway? Mind you, understand my feelings. And so I'm feeling the heft of what he's saying, and sort of how emotionless he was playing the father. And I felt like it was real. And that is one of the best things that can happen to you as an actor when you're in a scene and you feel the realness of that scene. And so he's telling me all this stuff, and there's no emotion behind his eyes. And I'm really searching for it. Like, okay, it's not funny anymore. Where is this guy that is, you know, my acting class father? He wasn't there, and I felt just naked and vulnerable, and I started crying. And he finished his monologue, and it was my turn, and I wanted to play the role, or the next few scenes, the next few lines, very sad and solemn, like, why don't you listen to me, you know, like, da-da-da. And then it just, not only did I forget my lines, but a completely different emotion came out, and some different words came out too. It wasn't like cussing or anything, but I was just like, what is wrong with you? Can't you see this is how I feel? This is what I'm saying? And mind you, I'm bawling, and it feels even to this day like an out of body experience, as I'm thinking back. I'm seeing myself having this breakdown. I'm looking at my scene partner, who I can see the way his face is sort of changing back into who he actually was, and less of the father. And I hear around me the voices of people in the audience, and the spotlight was on me, so I couldn't look out and see their faces. But I heard, wow, and oh, this is so good. And oh my goodness, are you seeing this? And I'm reveling in it, but I'm also still so solemn and sad because I feel so unheard and lost and vulnerable. And so that scene ends, kind of getting emotional thinking about it now. That scene ends, and I couldn't even describe how I felt. I got a few praise after saying that I did a well done job, and I felt it. I still felt pretty sad afterward. And so I sat down and went through the rest of the class pretty happy. My mom picked me up early because I had school the next day. But when I got in the car with her, I immediately started bawling my eyes out. I felt every emotion I could possibly feel. And it wasn't just because I did that scene and I actually let in that emotion, but because I never felt so safe in a profession in my life. Freshman and sophomore year, I worked at a job in the financial district downtown once a week, and so 4 days out of the week I'd go to school, and acting class fell on the day that I went to work. So after I'd get off work around 4, I'd have to hurry up and get home within the hour to get to acting class within the next, let's say, 30 minutes, and then stay there until about 10 o'clock, but then I'd have school on Thursday, the very next day. And I just felt working in the real life stuff and then working in what I knew was what I was meant to do, it gave me a reason to keep going. And so that very long-winded story to say, I have a purpose, and I have an ambition, and I have a dream, and every time I feel like giving up, I remind myself that there's nothing else that I could possibly be doing that can make me as happy as acting. And over time, that assurance, that knowing became set in stone. And not only that, but it almost instilled in me a confidence that there's no way I can't do this. And so having the mindset of, I know for a fact I can do this, and so even the voices in my brain can't set me back, that consistency set into play. So there are other stories that I could tell, but I'll save them because I need more content for later. But I will say that experience gave me my reason. And so to every actor, to every dreamer, to everybody who has one of those eccentric or out of the box dream that for many does not succeed, I'll tell you, give yourself a reason. Don't just say, I want to be an actor because I want to be famous, or I want to be an actor because I want to, maybe don't even say it because I want to give other people, someone to look up to, because that's a good reason, but where is the you in that? You can be famous and lose yourself. You can give other people the world and not know who you are. Where's your place in this world if not serving others? So make sure that service is reciprocated, that you're giving as much as you're taking, and vice versa. So to the normal jobs, to the everyday worker, you are just as important, and your dreams are just as vital and just as accessible to you. And I can't cover how having the dream of opening your own gas station chain, or having the dream of becoming a CEO in a pharmaceutical company, completely different ends of the spectrum, but they all take work. It takes a building, and it takes a patience, and it takes a consistency that you can't find or get from anybody else but yourself. Yes, you're the only one setting yourself back, but remember, that consistency is what's going to get you there. You're right here, your dream is right here, your wall is here, and when you take down your wall, now you got the trail. And it takes the consistency, and honestly, I think the consistency is harder than breaking down the wall, but that consistency will get you there, I promise. There's literally nothing on this planet that you cannot do, and I think a lot of us forget that. Free will is still a thing. Okay, I just remembered I can learn how to sew, and I can learn how to paint, and I can learn how to put in a new tire on a car. Like, all these things I can learn how to do. I don't know why I hold myself back like I can't. But yeah. Thank you for watching this video. I hope everything does not go in your favor in the beginning. I hope you have some trouble and you have some hard work, and I hope that all that hard work and all that hardship will get you to your diamond. As previously stated, I do have a YouTube channel. You're watching it right now. And I do have Instagram and TikTok and Twitch. I'm still trying to figure that one out, so it may take a hot minute for you to actually see some real stuff come out of it. But I have all these things, and they're in my bio. Thank you for watching. Bye.